The proclamation of the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus journeyed to a city called Naim, and his disciples and a large crowd accompanied him. As he drew near to the gate of the city, a man who had died was being carried out, the only son of his mother, and she was a widow. A large crowd from the city was with her. When the Lord saw her, he was moved with pity for her and said to her, "Do not weep." He stepped forward and touched the coffin. At this, the bearers halted, and he said, "Young man, I tell you, arise." The dead man sat up and began to speak, and Jesus gave him to his mother. Fear seized them all, and they glorified God, exclaiming, "A great prophet has arisen in our midst, and God has visited his people." This report about him spread through the whole of Judea and in all the surrounding region. The Gospel of the Lord.
Our Gospel passage for this Sunday comes from St. Luke. We have been reflecting on the gift of life, definitely coming from God, but this comes from the love and the power of God. Look at that blending, the gentleness of God's love and compassion, and the power emanating from His divine authority. When these come together, then there is life, there is new life. This was the experience of the widow whose son died in the first reading, and Elijah prayed to God, and God had compassion on the widow. And through the power of God's love, compassion, and of course, divine authority, the boy was restored to life. And so Elijah was rediscovered by the widow as a man of God who came to them not to bring punishment for sin, but new life out of the compassion of God. In the second reading from the letter of Paul to the Galatians, Paul narrates how in his previous life, filled with zeal for the Judaic tradition, he reached the point of persecuting the early followers of Jesus Christ. But through the graciousness of God and the power of the revelation of Jesus to him and his gospel, then his life was given a new direction. And he discovered his real purpose in life, which is to be a believer of Jesus Christ and to be the apostle of the gospel of Christ. So it is not just a restoration of physical health, physical life, but even a discovery of the direction of our lives that happens when the compassion of the Lord works in us and the power of His Word hits us and becomes operative in our lives. This combination of compassion and power is very much present in the gospel. Jesus, with his disciples and with a big crowd accompanying him, entered the town of Naim. Imagine Jesus with the following. And as they entered the gate of the town, they encountered another crowd. And this crowd was bearing the dead body of the only son of a widow. You have the encounter of the Son of God and the dead son of a widow at the gate of the town. What will happen? Here is a new Elijah, not only a man of God, but the very Son of God. What will happen to him? Jesus, seeing the funeral procession, and realizing that this was the only son of a widowed mother, was moved with compassion. So here the first element that we have been talking about, the compassion of God. God is able to feel with and for human beings who are suffering. And in this gospel passage, we see God in Jesus showing much love and compassion for a woman, and in her for all women who bear a lot of the sufferings and pains, not only in the family, but also many atrocities of society and history. God is moved in Jesus Christ with compassion. And this compassion led Jesus to act. He touched the litter. Wow. Now, if you are a zealous defender of Judaic tradition, like St. Paul in the second reading, you would have said, oh, Jesus is now impure, for he had touched something that is associated with the dead. But will Jesus become impure? Will he be contaminated by the sting of death that he has just touched? Let us see. Unlike Elijah who prayed to God so that the life breath of the boy would be restored, Jesus in this episode did not pray. He, by the power of his words, restored this boy to life. He just said, "Young man, I bid you get up." The power of Jesus, the power of his word, and the boy was restored to life and restored to his mother. The compassionate heart of God and the power of his word. You see, life-giving. This was experienced by the woman who lost her son during the time of Elijah. This was experienced by St. Paul in his reformation of life. And this was very much present in the experience of the widow of Naim. We are looking for life in our family. We're looking for life in society. Maybe we need these two components. Life will arise only when there is pure love and compassion. Without love and compassion, there will be no real life in society. But we also need power. What power? Not brute power, not brute political military power, not the power of money, not the power of ambition. We need divine power. The power of the Word of God, the power of the presence of God. Power and compassion coming from God. These two will bring us back to life. So let us examine ourselves. Let us examine what's going on in our families and societies. Maybe it is time for us, like Elijah, to pray to God, to have pity on us, and also to exercise the power of His Word on our lives and on our society. When I accompanied a group of pilgrims to the Holy Land, we were able to visit this city of Naim. Unfortunately, we were told by the guide that there is not even one Christian left in Naim. The church commemorating this great miracle of the restoration to life of this boy is still there, but closed. And you need to borrow the key from one of the residents who is not a Christian. It felt so sad that we were just able to touch the door of the church. And some of the pilgrims with me were crying and asking the Lord, Lord, open this church again. Lord, may the time come when this church will be open and people would come to worship and remember how you restored life to the son of a widow. Imagine, now it is the church that seems to be dying in that place. And we pilgrims were like Elijah, asking the Lord, have pity, and by the power of your word, restore the community here. I guess we should be like Elijah, Jesus, and St. Paul, with our compassion, with our prayer, and relying on the power of God. We may be bearers of life wherever death seems to dominate. The word has been exposed. Let us now fulfill it.